Hey, this is OXDF, and today we're looking at Flask debug mode and how to exploit it and get remote code execution. In the previous video in this series, I made myself a HelloWorld app. I ran it, I debugged it, I showed how the pin was generated, I walked through the debug mode a little bit, and then we switched and ran it as a wsgi app and showed how that changed how you need to apply the piece of information you need to pull to get the debug pin using like a file read vulnerability. Today, we're going to take that and apply it to the Agile box from HackTheBox. So you don't have to have watched the previous video, but it's probably good background going into this video. I'll make sure to include a little link here so you can click over to it. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. Agile is centered on this box, on this application called Super Password. I've made an account here. I've logged in. I've created an example password. The vulnerability really comes in the export feature. I don't know why. Something when I after I submitted this box into testing, things break sometimes, and I can't explain what. It must be some sort of cleanup script or something. But let's suppose there's the intended behavior. So when I click export, I get this super pass export.csv. If we look in burp to see what's happening, when I click export, I go to alt export. And what comes back is a 302 to download with the file name given. It involves my, the name of the file that's coming back. And then we immediately go to that download link. And the vulnerabilities on this site are in the /download. So let's go ahead and check that out. If we do /download, I guess we could start by grabbing, oops, didn't mean to launch inspector. Let's see, we'll grab this exact URL, copy that, paste it there. We get the CSV. There's nothing that's super exciting about that. But the question becomes, what happens if I put in something else? So can I do like a bunch of dots and do etsy password? And the fact is, I can't. In fact, if we come back over here into burp and we look for that right there, we can see the etsy password is what's coming back. The other vulnerability is, well, what happens if I put in nothing, or if I just give it a dot? And that is that we are crashing. We're getting an is a directory error. So it's trying to, you can see right here, let's see if we can find the code with open /temp/file name as a binary file. So we're trying to open that, and so temp/dot is a directory, so it's raising an is a directory error, and we're getting back this Flask debug page. And the cool thing about the Flask debug page is you can click here and say like, oh, what if I want to actually run commands here? So this is where I need the pin. We will jump over to, this is the HackTricks page on this. We could just as easily actually go and look at the WorkZerg source itself, but this goes through all the details of the stuff used to calculate the pin. And in fact, we've got this block right here. We'll do vim pin.py, paste, and pop that in. And now we can go up to the top and look at the things we have to provide. And so we need to be able to give it the username, the module name, this name of the app, the full path to the application, as well as this integer representation of the MAC address of the box, and the machine ID plus some other stuff. And we'll go through each of those things. So the username is probably the easiest to pull. I'm going to go ahead and grab, let's see, I'll grab this request right here, send it over to burp repeater. In burp repeater, I can say, I just happen to know we don't need one of those. We can do proc self environ. We can go ahead and read the environment of the current process. And when we do that, we're going to see right here, home is equal to var dub, logon name is equal to dub data, user is equal to dub data. We can feel pretty good that our username is dub data. So we'll go ahead and add that in. I'm going to skip over 2 and 3 for now, because those are really the hardest ones. We're going to come back to those. The next thing we're going to do is we can say we need the full path to the file. Let's reload this without the pin. And that is actually right here in the first line. So we can grab that, come here, clear you out, and paste that in. Oops, don't need the I. Looking good. Private bits. Now this is the uuid.getnode. Now there's an interesting, in Python, what this is supposed to do is pull the MAC address. Now I say the MAC address, we'll live with that for a second, and convert it from its, you typically see MACs written as hex pairs, so bytes separated by colons, but there's no reason you can't represent that as an integer. It's just 48 bits converted to an integer, right? And that's what's supposed to come back. Now, there's some complexities of like, what if you have multiple MACs, or what if you have multiple NICs? How do you handle that? And there's also this weird thing where I was, in trying to make my dummy app, I realized that on Ubuntu desktop, not Ubuntu server, but it doesn't seem to work right. Windows works fine, Ubuntu server works fine, but getnode doesn't work the same on Ubuntu desktop. Doesn't matter here because we can actually check. In fact, let's go ahead. We can see we grab. I think we can see this. Let's try it. Etsy LSB release. I don't know if we're gonna see it or not. Actually, now that I say that. Now we just see that it's Ubuntu. I'm sure there's somewhere on the file system we could check and see. We can cheat a little and say we know this is an Ubuntu server, so we're gonna be fine there. So we need to get if we can get the MAC address, we'll be good. Now they show is like sys class net the device name / address. If we go back over here a little bit. They actually talk to you about how to get that. And they recommend getting procnet arp to get the device ID. So we'll do that. Close inspector here. We can do procnet arp. And when we go for that, we see a device ID of eth0. So now we can come back here and do sys class net eth0 address. And when we run that, we get the MAC address. And that's in the standard Mac form. So we'll open up a window here, just do Python. There's a bunch of ways you can do this, but so like if I do this and do .replace and get rid of all the semicolons, make them nothing, and then I can just do an int base 16 and I get an integer. So that works. That's one way to do it. You could also just delete these yourself and put an OX in the front and then print it. That would work. Go back here and clear you out. Put that in, and we're there. The next thing is this machine ID, and they say it's an Etsy machine ID. So we'll definitely want to start by grabbing that Etsy machine ID, and that we got that error again. Let's see. Am I not getting the right thing? It's machine -ID. Sweet. So there's this. Now we actually need something a little bit more. And oops, we didn't copy it. We can go back to the HackTricks page, and it actually shows here's the machine ID code. And what it's going to do is it's got a global, so it only wants to run this once. So once you run it once, it's going to stay. And then it's going to call this. It's got this generate function. They don't show it too well in here, but basically it's going to loop over file name at the machine ID and this other one. As soon as it succeeds at one, it's going to break, so that's going to stop. But then it's also going to try to open proc self C groups, and it's going to get the first line, and it's going to read anything after the trailing slash or the second. Well, it's going to split on slash and get the third item, I guess. So if we go back here and go proc self C group, we'll need that. Proc self C group. Was it groups? I think it's groups. Let's try C group. There it is. And so if we split on this and get the second one, we need superpath.service. So we will add that right in there. And now we're basically done with the exception of 2 and 3, or these two things up here. The other thing to always check, this is less of an issue now. HackTricks updated this. It used to be MD5s and now it's SHA-1. We can actually go check, especially since we know the path. We can do app, bnv, lib, Python 3.10, site packages. I think this is right. Work zug. I don't know how to say this. Work zug. Debug. Dunder init. .py. Let's see if that works. Be kind of a miracle. Yeah. Okay, so we can see this, and we can actually. This is actually the code. The debug code that generates the pin, and it's what this script is based on. And if we scroll down enough, let's see. Here's the get pin and cookie name function, and here is where it defines probably public bits and private bits, and then here we are taking a hash, a SHA-1 hash, and we're going to start adding that stuff to it, just like it does in this loop here. So it is SHA-1. If we saw MD5 right here, we'd want to change that to match. Fair. And so in theory, if we were just reading HackTricks, we would say, okay, we run python pin.py and we get a pin, and we come over, we copy this, we go over here, and we paste it in, and we would get the right pin, but we don't. So the question is like, what's going on here? And it has to do with, as we looked at in the last video, what happens when you start launching this as a wsgi app. And so the first thing we can look at is, let's see how this is actually running. So we can do proc self cmd line, and that'll show us what launched this. And we can see one of the things about cmd line and the environment file as well, these are null separated. So if we were to click over to hex, we'd see at the bottom, so you have like app venv, where's here, like here's a null right here between Python 3 and the next thing. So these are kind of awkward. One way to make this look slightly better, we could look at it differently. We can copy this. We could do cookie equals, I was just like, to me, that's just easier if we grab it this way. We could grab this, and then we could do curl superpass.HackTheBox. Then we'll get that where's download like this. There's a couple things you got to be careful of when you're doing these kind of directory traversals in curl. You got to do the path as is. Let's see. Oh, and of course we got to do -b $, put in parentheses $, cookie, because we're not logged in. And now it's giving us binary output. So if we do that, we'll be able to see it. And so we can see the same kind of mess. So instead, now we can do tr, and we can replace ox00 with space. I'm going to, just for the sake of my OCD, I'm going to do a -s here so I don't get this. Where did I do it? Super pat. That's not the right place. Let's try curl -s. Sweet. So now we can see, kind of, let's make this a little bigger. The text, the big font's getting us. If we run this, we are seeing app venv, this G unicorn. It still is calling. It's calling a bind on. Oh, that is not working. Let's try this again. What are we doing here? Maybe it's this. That looks better. So we're calling Python 3. We're calling G unicorn. We're going to bind on port 5000 on localhost. We have 10 threads, a timeout, and we're running wsgi/app. And what does that mean? Well, that means we're going to load the wsgi module with the get an app object out of it. So we want to check. So let's see. What if we don't need that anymore? We can, from the same window, come here and say proc self current working directory and look for wsgi.py, because that's what this right here is, a Python file. And we want the app object from inside of it. In fact, here you go. You see from superpass.app, import app. So that's the app object. And then we are calling enable debug. And if this is called directly, we're going to run main. We're going to run the main function out of here. And so that's how gunicorn is going to load that file. We could take this file. Maybe we'll do this. We'll do this again. We'll grab this and we'll save this to wsgi.py. We will make a directory superpass, and we will go ahead and get, we'll do superpass app.py, and we'll go ahead and download app.py as well. So now we can do superpass app.py. And if we look at that, you can see here it is. One minor thing, I was just playing with the box to recreate one of the unintendeds that I'll show in the Beyond Root in my blog post. So this is actually not what it's set right now. That's not what it's actually set on the released boxes nowadays. That is what it looked like when we released. You can think about what that might be the problem, what problem that might have caused. Anyway, we can see that. Now, it doesn't matter what we're doing here. So we've got this file now. Now I want to run this file. I could go and download every file. So I could say, like, okay, I need to go get, I need to install the Jinja partials. I need to install Flask login. I need to get the infrastructure view modifiers and just start to like, get all these different files. I'm going to need a DB session. The fact is, most of this stuff doesn't really matter for how it's going to run. So we can run this. We're fine here. We're just going to basically skip register blueprints. I don't know what I'm doing here. Let's see. We'll just do paths, and then we can insert like that. Boom. Setup DB. Same thing. We don't. Whoa. Where did I lose my change there? Man, that's a pain. Okay, let's try this again. We will Control V, move down, capital I, put in the thing, put in a space, hit escape, and we're good. We'll come here and we will do pass, comment that out. Configure logon manager. Do we need a logon manager? No, not really. We will pass. And same thing, we're just going to move down here and get rid of all of this. Now, if I run this and it breaks, I can always come back and re-add some of this stuff. It's just easier to sort of take out all the stuff here while we have it. I don't see why any of this would matter for the debug. Load config, we just comment this out. Oops, let's see. Shift-I, shift comment space, bang. I am going to need to put pass here or these are going to break. So we'll need a pass on this one as well. Configure, load config will be fine, resolutions will be fine, that'll be fine, setup DB, configure template, that's all fine. Probably could have just commented that one out. Enable debug, this is important, we're going to leave that. This all looks fine, this looks fine, this looks fine. But I think we have an app thing we could run now. So if we do Python, so first we need to make a virtual environment. So with Python -m venv, and we'll call it venv. We will source venv bin activate to activate it. We will pip install flask. We might as well pip install gunicorn as well. I'm not sure if we're going to use it or not, but we'll do it. So now if we do a Python on wsgi.py, no module, pip install jinja partials. Okay. I could have commented some of this out, but okay. Login. Oh, and now we're starting. Now we're getting somewhere because we're actually trying to import things that don't exist. So let's go back up to here, the top. We aren't going to need that or that. So let's comment those out. All right. So let's try that again. We can run wsgi.py, and we're running now. In fact, we can see right away we're getting 3 pins, and so that's interesting. What I want to do now is I want to go in here and say, let's open up in the virtual environment. We can come in and we can see there's a lib, and this looks just like what Python typically looks like. So there's our site packages. Here's our Werkzeug. We can go into debug, and we already looked at that's in the init.py. So let's go to public bits, and here's the private bits, and let's go ahead and print pub, probably public bits, new line, priv, private bits. And we will close that. And now, because we're in debug mode, this actually already restarted, and you can see we print these out. And what's cool is we get the 3 pins for our local copy, and we can see what they're using. And so the things that we were having troubles with, we got the username. We know we feel pretty good we got the username, right? We feel pretty good that we got this path reg as a solid leak. These things are going to be different on my machine, but that's expected because it's my machine. In fact, this number right here, this is an Ubuntu desktop, and it's going to be returning something weird that's not related to my MAC address. I can't figure this out still. I'd love to understand it if anyone can figure out what's going on. I've debugged it into the UUID module. In fact, that was the crash that you saw that I had to edit out real quickly before, and I can't figure out what's going on. It gets into the C code that is running it behind the scenes, and I couldn't get that deep and understand it yet. So if you understand it, please let me know. But anyway, the things we're really interested in are this flask.app, which is what we have it. Although you'll see here it's called Werkzeug debug, and here it's back to flask.app. And then the other thing is, instead of Flask, which it is sometimes, it also could be debugged application or wsgi app. So let's try that. Let's go back to our let's vim pin.py and come up here and try the first one. It's flask.app, and then here it was wsgi app. And if we do that in Python pin, we get a pin, and we come over to this, it works. So that was the hardest part of Agile, frankly, was finding out how am I going to figure out, because the guides typically show what happens if you just run Python app.py. They don't show what happens when you run it as a debugged wsgi app. And that is something that is common in the world. Well, as common as seeing Flask debug. And once we have that, now, now we're here. Now we can do os.popen id.read, and we've got a shell. So we have execution. But anyway, this was the challenging part of Agile. And this is when I originally set out to make this box, I was thinking this was going to be an easy box. And I was thinking, oh, it'll be a simple file read, into a, trivial showing of flask debug. And as I kept making it, I kept being like, why is this so hard? And it ended up being a medium box. I added a few other steps. And yeah, anyway, I'm going to call it here. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope this was useful. And I will talk to you next time.